This is Jonathan Mickles with the Strategic Multifamily Investing Podcast. And today with me, I have Mr. Brad Warren. How's it going, Brad?
It's going very well, Jonathan. Thanks.
Excellent. So Brad and I have been trying to play catch up for a little while, and we finally did. And as you can see, he's interested in doing some land banking things. So in this episode, we'll talk a little bit more about what land banking is and understand what he's doing right now. But Brad, before then, tell me how you kind of got started. I think we have some similar things on how you got started in real estate.
Yeah. I do a quarterly net worth statement dating back to March of 1989 when I was engaged to my wife. Wanted to keep track of how we were doing. And on December 31st, 2011, I did the net worth statement. I looked at the numbers and I kind of had a little knock upside the head. I realized my wife could retire by herself. She had been working at Oracle for many years. She had a 401k, company match, good investments into the mutual funds. She could retire by herself. Together we could retire. But if I was single and on my own, I did not have enough money in my accounts to be able to retire. So I invited Marcella Silva, my land banker, over to our house in January of 2012. She did her presentation at the kitchen table. My wife got up and said, "No, thank you. Sounds like speculation. 7 to 10 years to get my return. I'm not interested in that." Walked out of the room. I turned to Marcella and I said, "This looks like the only thing I can do right now, this late in the game." I was 62 at the time. I said, no, 61. I was 61. And I said, "I want a piece of land, so help me out." 2 months later, I bought my first one. A year later, I got my second. A year later, I got my third. A year later, my wife comes with me to hear Marcella present again at a hotel. You know how they have those setups in the hotel? All the investors bring their friends and they learn about it, and then hopefully the friends invest. So she comes with me the whole way in the car, Jonathan. She goes, "I'm not going to invest. I'm not going to invest, but I just want to go and hear what Marcella has to say. Maybe I missed something, because you've been doing this for 3 years. You own 3 properties. You've made like over $20,000 in referral fees. Something's going on. I might have missed it. Let me check it out. But I'm not going to buy it." We get there and she buys 2 properties.
So those things about the hotel thing, she messed up on. She did not leave the checkbook at home.
No, she surprised the heck out of me. She pulled it out of her wallet and wrote out 2 deposit checks. And I was like, whoa. So that is literally how I got started in land banking. First as an investor, then as a finder, referring business to Marcella. And then eventually I got my real estate license and now I'm on the team. I'm actually selling land. I sell dirt. When people ask me what I do, I just tell them I sell dirt.
So that right there is something that we have in common, that we both have our license. Where are you licensed?
I'm licensed in the state of California with Velour Enterprises. That's the name of the company. And I am a licensed real estate salesperson according to the state of California.
I understand that. So then also let's go back a couple of things. You mentioned that, you bought the first property and the first year, and then the second property the second year, et cetera. Were you buying these things in cash? Because you mentioned, your wife could retire, but you couldn't retire. Did you have money socked away in some sort of way to be able to make those purchases, or were they leveraged in some sort of way?
Great question. You can buy with cash, but I used a self-directed IRA. A little bit different than a regular IRA. Actually, my first purchase was with a self-directed Roth IRA.
Yes.
So when that one sells, that's all my money. Uncle Sam gets 0 on that one. So 2 of mine are in a self-directed SEP IRA. 1 is in a self-directed Roth IRA, and my wife's 8 properties, because we now have 11. Her 8 are all in her self-directed Roth.
Got it.
You can do Roth. You can do cash. A lot of people also do 1031 exchanges. And they buy, in fact, they take from us, they'll sell, and then they'll just buy more land at a higher price with the money and defer the tax.
So let's take a step back, and just for everybody else to catch everybody else up, because I like to try to educate people as much as possible. So the IRAs that you probably are, first of all, neither one of us are financial Financial
Correct.
advisors. You need to go
Correct.
in, financial help, but there are people who within our communities who can direct you to, who can speak better to that. But he mentioned the first one, the first few were in a SEP IRA. If I'm not mistaken, those are IRAs that are related to a company or an LLC or a C corporation that you have or something like that, correct?
Yes, I'm actually an S corp, and my CPA advised me to set that kind of IRA up first. And then some of the money that's in there, I actually convert over to the Roth, pay the tax. They say pay the tax on the seed, not the bushel.
That's right.
Pay the tax on the seed, not the harvest. And so I move money from the SEP to the Roth and then buy the land. And that's exactly what my wife does. Hers takes an additional step. She has to go from her 401k into her Roth 401k, and then from the Roth 401k to the Roth self-directed IRA. So again, talk to your financial person, your advisor, your CPA. We are not giving financial advice.
We are not.
I'm just talking about dirt and how important it is to invest in land, because they're not making any more of it.
Exactly. They're not making any more of it, right? So please talk to your financial advisors, but those are some very good ways where people like ourselves are able to sock away a little bit more money, because SEP IRAs, you can sock away more money than, say, with a regular traditional IRA. With a self-directed IRA, you can actually direct where you would like your money to go versus, say, you being within an organization, a corporation, and they telling you what to particularly invest in. So you were able to do that. Where did you get the idea of doing, starting the quarterly personal financial statements?
Wow, 1989. You're taxing my memory now, Jonathan. That's a long time ago. Some financial class that I took, financial literacy kind of class, and they mentioned something called a net worth statement. And I was like, oh, dude, net worth statement. How do I do that? Well, you add up all of your assets, you subtract all of your liabilities, and what's left over is called your net worth. I went, well, that's simple. And I even have the first one. I have a book, and the first one it's right. Actually, you got me going. So this is Brad and Marie's net worth book, March 1989 to the present. And the first one, it looked like this over here. And bedroom, 2 desks worth $80, 2 dressers worth $15, a waterbed, $50, bookshelf, $20, and so on. And we had that, the kitchen, the bathroom, the porch, the living room, and then that was it. And I think our net worth was like a few $100, maybe a couple of $1,000 total.
But man, that is so awesome. And again, I know we're going to get to land banking here in a second, but success leaves clues. So pay attention to what, Brad has just mentioned. They formed discipline, and as you saw, it was just on paper. They were just writing things out and and it grew over time. So their net worth also grew over time because they were looking at the numbers. They disciplined themselves to continue to do that all the time. They had a format. They worked with financial advisors to make sure that they were structured correctly. And now they're doing, I'm pretty sure, quite well. So let's get into the topic.
Good guess.
I'm pretty sure. Again, success leaves clues. When people start talking a certain way that things are going that direction. You and I also share that we used to host Rich Dad, Poor Dad cash flow games. And so I'm thinking that discipline that you had of doing a personal financial statement was something that kind of led you to doing that, or tell me how you got involved in that.
Well, cash flow, actually, there was a young lady. She was a business coach, Masterpiece Coaching, I think, Gina Gabellini. And she first introduced me to The Secret and Esther Hicks and, Abraham, the teachings of Abraham, all about the law of attraction and all that, the secret from Rhonda, whatever her last name was. I forgot her last name. I think it was Rhonda. And then one day she said, Brad, why don't you come over to my house? I'm playing cash flow. I said, what's that? Oh, it's something Robert Kiyosaki developed. And I said, oh yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think I read that book. She said, yeah, come over and play the game. And I was addicted from the first roll of the dice. I was addicted to that game, and wound up eventually. I bought the and it was $200. Monopoly maybe cost 20 or 30. This is $200. I was like, woo, maybe that's a lot of money for a board game. Yeah. But I started playing with my wife and some friends, and eventually I had a group that came over to my house once a month for years. I mean, I think we were together for about 15 years, 15 or something years. And eventually we got Cash Flow 202, the more advanced version. And then we got kind of tired of just playing the game. So he said, okay, $20 a person. So 6 of us put $20 right in the middle of the table, and the winner won the 120. So it got a little more cutthroat at that point, a little more competitive.
Exactly.
But we also, at the end, we would talk about what we were each doing in the world of finance. How were things going? Where were we investing? What had we heard about? And we helped each other. I called it the deal table. So we started talking about deals and stuff like that. And I believe it increased everybody's financial literacy.
Right. And it did. And what I also hear in there is that you were able to find and build community. You were together for 15 years, right? You all kind of started somewhere similar. You had some other things in common, and you all built off of that in order to be able to build where you are. All right, land banking. What the heck is land banking?
So the way I describe it to people, I say, imagine where you grew up, or even where you're living now. Let's say you've been where you're living now for a while, and you're driving down the road and you pass a vacant piece of land, and there's a for sale sign, and you say to yourself, man, I should probably look into that. It seems to be situated in a nice place, and it's empty, and I don't know how much it costs, but you never do anything. And 10, 15 years later, you drive by that same street and there's a hotel there or a shopping center. That's land banking. You buy land when it's cheap and affordable, but it has to be in the path of growth. Otherwise, we call it land speculation. Then you're hoping it will go up in value. But
so let's
land banking, we know that, we know that the area that we invest in, which is a 60-mile radius around downtown LA, we're not all over the country. We're in one specific area. We've been there for 44 years. We're experts on land in that one area. And we know that the land that we sell to our investors is in the path of growth. We don't have time today for me to go deeply into that. We have 10, we call them the economic growth factors. There are 10 trends, 10 growth factors, all happening within that 60-mile radius, all at the same time, that lead us to believe, and of course, over 44 years, we've been correct, and we hope to continue to be correct. We know that the land is going to increase in value, and that's why people invest with us. We also require people to get educated first. We don't take their money until they watch a full 1-hour presentation called Land Banking 101 to understand what those 10 economic factors are, how we find the land, what our rate of return is, blah, 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 all that stuff. We educate first, and then we grill them to make sure that they're nice and patient and that they understand what they're getting themselves into, because we tell people 7 to 10 years. That's our time horizon on average. Sometimes it's sooner, sometimes later.
So let's get right into, I guess, sending people to a website. How do they find out and start the education process for land banking? Just so we can get that on the table. I have several other questions, but how do they get in contact?
Yeah, the easiest way is to just email me, brad@bradwarren.com. Very simple. It's my name, brad@bradwarren.com. You email me, you say, I heard you on John, because all of my business is by referral. I won't talk to them unless I know how they got to me, because we're afraid sometimes that our competitors would just try to get our secrets, our secret sauce, as it were. So they would have to identify that they heard me on your show. Then I would, depending on where they're at in their investment life, I would chat with them for just a brief conversation, but I would send them a link to Marcella's website where they can register to watch the full presentation. After watching it, if they're still interested, some people watch it and they may say, like my wife, 7 to 10 years, not sure if I want to wait that long. Or, I don't have 25,000. That's our minimum, $25,000. So they kind of weed themselves out. But if they get back to me and they say, Brad, I watched it, I'm still very interested, then our process is they meet with me via Zoom. We chat some more. I answer more of their questions. If they're still interested after that, they get to meet Marcella in a 3-way Zoom. And then finally, at the end of the conversation with Marcella, she asks them 2 questions. Do you still want to invest? They say yes. Our last question, what's your price range? 25 to 30, 50 to 75. Marcella, I got $300,000. I'd like to put the whole thing. Okay, then we start talking strategy. Do we diversify a couple of solar and a commercial? Do we put it all into mixed use? That conversation she has, that's kind of above my pay grade. She talks strategy with them to look at the long term. And then we go and find them the property that matches their price range. So
then that's the process. So again, make sure you send an email to brad@bradwarren.com, and then he can get you started. So you mentioned that you educate them. There has to be in the path of progress. You've been in the same place for 44 years. Why haven't you all moved from that one place? I mean, given that you know these economic factors, you could potentially apply this to other places in the country.
Great question. It's a fantastic question. I even asked that question of our CEO. I said, how come we're only here? Why aren't we like Texas or Florida or some other place? And he said, well, first of all, he lives inside that 60-mile radius. The company was founded by his father. He's now running it. Some of the employees have been there 20, 30 years. So it's a family-held business. They know the area. He can actually drive from his house to the land if he actually wants to go look at it and feel it and touch it. And those growth factors, I mentioned 10 growth factors, they don't all exist in any other area in the United States as far as we can tell. And we've looked. There's just not, there may be 5 or 6, but you got to have a business. I don't even remember all 10, but I know a few of them. Business-friendly city government, proximity to a port. Hello, Long Beach and LA Harbor, 3rd busiest in the world, I think. I think it's the world, or maybe it's the US. I'll have to double check that, but it's very busy. Everything from Asia comes in either to Seattle, San Francisco, or here. And we're the busiest one of the 3. So you got to have the port, you got to have air, you got to have infrastructure growth, you got to have population growth and well-educated population to take the higher paying jobs that are being developed. You got to have housing, you got to have affordable land, you got to have water, you got to have sun for all the solar land that we sell. I think that was 9. I'm probably missing 1.
But you gave them those things, but all those things exist in that particular area. And so that's your secret sauce for what you do. You've been specializing, and it's almost been 45 years you all have been doing it. Go ahead, Brad. Go ahead.
And we back it up, Jonathan. It's not just Brad saying this. We will show you articles. We will show you city council declarations. We will show you proclamations from the mayor where they say, this is what we're doing. This is the growth that we're expecting in our city by 2030. This is what's coming. BYD, Build Your Dreams, Chinese electric car manufacturer. They were courted by the mayor of Lancaster for several years. He flew on his own money, not even city money. He flew on his own money to China, met the head of the company, and got them to build their only North American electric bus manufacturing facility in the entire United States. It's in Lancaster. I visited when I first bought in, and it was very small. The small little building had about 90 employees, and I think they were making about 15 or 20 buses a year. 2 years later, I went down. They had bought more land. The building was 5 times the size, had almost 1,000 employees. They were building 100 buses a year. Well, guess what? They just bought, like within the last year, a 160-acre parcel to build a second manufacturing plant bigger than the first one. That's job growth. That's incredible job growth in an expanding industry called solar buses, electric buses.
Sure.
So that, and that's progressive city government. Where else do you get a mayor that does something like that? But it paid off. By the way, Warren Buffett is a major investor. I believe he owns 10% of the stock of that company. So but we read this stuff. We find out this stuff, and we don't just make it up. It's based on fact and city council proclamations, general plans. We study these things extensively. We have an entire research and acquisition department, and all they do is research all day long. That's all they do.
Then let's talk to this point. There are a lot of people, primarily we're directed towards multifamily investing, right? We do syndication, want to, do that kind of thing. That's buying apartment buildings. So today is the 22nd of March when we're recording this, and the Fed chair just increased the rates by another 0.25%. We've also just seen the softening in the banking industry, as some would say, with SVB going under, who isn't too far away from where you all invest in. Several other banks have gotten hit and have been purchased by other larger banks to shore things up. So some people may be a little nervous and want to maybe park their money somewhere else and may want to take a break from necessarily being a little bit more active investor as they may have been in the past. Are you starting to see, some people wanting to come to you around that?
Yes. They come basically saying, I'm sick of tenants, toilets, and termites. One of my clients is actually selling off 37 of their single family residence rental units and doing 1031 exchanges into land. We get people who say, look, I'm just tired of the ups and downs. I look at my portfolio and it's up 20,000. The next day it's down 40,000. Then it's up 35 and then it's down 10. They're just tired of that. Crypto went sideways a while back, and who knows when that's coming back. They want a safe, set it and forget it. Don't have to think about it except once a year when I pay my property tax, real estate investment that they can do inside of a Roth, a self-directed Roth, or even just a regular self-directed IRA and just defer. They can do a 1031 exchange, and then they do nothing. You pay your property tax once a year, and you wait. You wait for the developer to knock on your door. And then, oh, by the way, we offer free negotiation coaching. So the COO of our company will get involved with any velour investor when it comes time for them to sell, and will coach them for free on how to get the price up, because the first price is always lowball. The first offer is always lowball. It's usually less than what you paid for. And then it gradually goes up, and then it starts to dramatically go up when they start to get these questions that we give them, and they go, oh, this Jonathan guy, I thought we were going to be able to bamboozle this guy and steal his land, but he knows what those are really good questions. And so now they double their offer, and then we give you more questions and they double it again until you reach what we call 3 to 7x. That's the range we want you to be in, and the size of the return we want you to get.
So you purchase it at 100,000 in 7 to 10 years, you could potentially sell it for 300,000 or 700,000 or more. That's where you kind of want to be in terms of your range, correct?
Yeah. I actually have a client right now. She bought a $750,000 property. That's huge in our industry. Most sales are not that high, but I really lucked out. That was a whale. Most of our sales are like minnows, 25, 50, 75, 100. This was 750. She bought it 5 years ago. And every year she would complain, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. We told you 7 to 10 years, nothing's happening. You guys bamboozled me. Just be patient. She's currently in negotiations. I saw the contract. She's in negotiations for $2 million. And she's going to do a 1031 exchange with us, hopefully, and buy land to replace it, because this is for her granddaughter. It's not for her. And I don't know if she gets along well with her son or not, but I don't know if he's in the picture. But she's putting the land in the name of her granddaughter, who's just 7 or 8 or 10 or something like that. So that the granddaughter's got a nice horizon. And that 2 million will go to 6 million or 7 million. and the granddaughter won't have to work a day of her life.
Right. That's
that didn't even reach 3. We wanted, that's legacy wealth. We wanted her to get to 2.5 or 2.25 million, which would have been 3x, but she decided just to go for 2 million and do it now. So she stopped complaining.
Well, question for you. You said, once a year we do our taxes and then we're there. But, with land, just like you would say, buy it in the city or in the county, there's this thing called grass. There is this thing called maintenance. How is it that there is no additional maintenance or anything else that's connected to the land that you all are selling? I mean, I'm curious.
Yeah, well, Proposition 13 was passed in 1978, retroactive to 1976. And it caps the new assessment. Whenever a property changes hands, it's reassessed at the sale price. Well, because it's vacant land, you would think person bought it, let's say $50,000. You would think it would be assessed at $50,000. Well, the tax assessor who goes and looks and says it's vacant, there's nothing here, there's no infrastructure, so we'll value it at $35,000. So okay, you bought it for 50, but it's only evaluated at 35, and the cap is 2%. So whatever 2% of 35,000 is, I think that's $700.
Okay, and we're talking about maintenance. I'm talking about like physical maintenance. I got to cut the grass.
Oh yeah, no, I'll get it.
Oh, okay, you're getting there. Okay, go for it.
This is just the tax part.
Okay.
So let's say the tax is $500. Okay, so that was the amount that they paid. It's 1.3% of value. So let's say it's $100,000 property. The most it could be assessed at is $1,300. Usually they come in about half. So even on $100,000 property, you're paying $650. Well, the next year, the tax only goes up maximum 2%. Well, 2% of 650 is, I think it's $13. That's like nothing. So your carrying costs for taxes are negligible. As far as the land itself, there's mostly cacti and sagebrush. There's not a whole lot of grass. There's not a lot of trees. This area is called the high desert. It's like 2,000 feet elevation, and you really can't grow much there. There's no farms. They're not growing corn or anything like that. So you've got no ongoing fees. You only have your property tax. And like I said, it's a few $100. And it only goes up a little bit each year. So even over 10 years, let's say you pay another $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 total over 10 years. So instead of 100, you paid 109,000. That's negligible when you're getting 400, 500, 600 return.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Well, we've got a couple minutes left, and I know I've asked you a couple of major questions, and you've run through some of the answers on other questions I've had. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about land banking as something, as the bee's knees, as a way to go at this point in time?
Actually, you reminded me of one thing, at least. People always ask about, is this a syndication? Can I go in with family and friends? You're allowed to invest with up to 4 non-family members and 8 family members. And I believe it's just parents, grandparents, kids, and grandkids. I don't think uncles, nieces, nephews. I'm not sure about that. I would have to check.
Sounds like
so. Some people say, "Well, Brad, I don't want to get just 1 acre for 25,000. I got 3 buddies. We all have 25,000. What can we get for 100,000? We might be able to find them 8 acres or 10 acres or something bigger." So sometimes people will pool their money that way. But then the downside is all 4 have to agree to sell at the same time. Otherwise, one of them can prevent the sale from going through. So there's upsides, downside. And again, that's more about what we talk with people when they say, well, I want to get my mom and dad involved. Well, do mom and dad need the money for a hip operation? Or, they want to go on a world cruise before they die? If they're going to need the money, we don't want them investing, because then they're going to want to get the money out and there's no market for it. Right. Unless a developer comes along and buys it, and you have no control over that.
Okay. So then there is a way to be able to pool money together to go after larger pieces of property, but the downside is that everyone has to be able to, that's a general partnership right there for you. So Listen, Brad, how can
Yep.
people get in contact with you again to get involved, to learn? Because they've got to learn first before they even invest. There's multiple steps here. How do they start the process again?
I might have mentioned this earlier. I don't remember now. We're just having so much fun talking with you. Email. I return all emails within 24 hours, even when I'm on vacation. And it's just my name, Brad at bradwarren.com. That's the quickest way. Just put Jonathan's podcast, land banking, Jonathan's podcast, something like that in the subject line. I get back to you. We set up a call. Or actually, I would send you the link and just have you get yourself educated first. Then you would email me and say, okay, I watched it. I'm still interested. What's next? Then I get a hold of them. We do a Zoom call, and then we get Marcella involved. And then if they still want to buy, that's when we start talking turkey, start talking money, where the money's coming from, which vehicle are they using, and so on and so forth.
Are you on any socials that people can follow you, Brad?
I'm 72 years old. I hardly know how to use my smartphone. My daughter had to teach me how to get on, get the apps and download. And I didn't know how to do any of that. I didn't even know how to text until in fact, my buddy was over here playing cash flow, and he picked up his phone and I saw him talking to his phone, and then he put it down. I said, what did you just do? He said, oh, I just sent a text. I said, but I didn't see you doing the little finger thing, the little crazy finger thing, which I can't do. He said, no, there's this little button. It's microphone in the bottom right. And I picked up my phone and went, holy crap, I didn't even know that. So I can text now. It doesn't always translate the words correctly, but I can text, and then I know how to go back and correct them. I'm not very technological, so the email is best, but I am on LinkedIn, Bradley K. Warren. If you put Bradley K. Warren, you should be able to see me. You'll see me with my pre-COVID hair. It's a lot shorter, and I'm in a jacket and tie, all dressed up nice, and the background is $100 bills growing out of the ground. So you can't miss me, but that's the other way is LinkedIn. Just go to LinkedIn and find me there.
There you go. Well, listen, Brad, this has been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. And again, please reach out to him if you're interested in potentially another alternative to, say, doing a syndication or doing something else. Yes, we want you to invest with Redwood LLC, but we recognize that there are other ways for you to be able to be independent and secure. So again, thanks, Brad, for joining us, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Great. And thank you, Jonathan.